This is CBC Here and Now.
There are dozens of dead seals on the beach here in Chamberlain's and Conception Bay South.
It's just gross. We've seen 20 dead seals. Most of them are missing their heads, which is pretty gruesome.
Why residents want this mess cleaned up.
Around here, he was known as the Matrix. Now Dawson Mercer is hoping to take that special skill all the way to a Stanley Cup championship. That story coming up.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan. An Indigenous-led coalition in St. John's is renewing its call for an independent body to oversee police in Newfoundland and Labrador. First Voice made 26 recommendations to strengthen police oversight 7 months ago. But what's the province doing? Here Now's Mark Quinn reports.
Justice Minister John Hogan was at the release of First Voice's report last October. He met with Indigenous leaders and spoke with reporters.
So we are going to look at all those recommendations and work with this group and other groups as well.
Today, in a statement to CBC, the Indigenous-led coalition said it has met with Department of Justice officials, including Hogan, many times since then. But First Voice says those meetings haven't resulted in meaningful change. We regret that these conversations have not resulted in any commitments on the part of the provincial government, or even any counter-proposals or agreed-upon next steps, says the coalition's statement. First Voice says policing in this province lacks transparency and accountability. It says the RCMP and the RNC are permeated with systemic racism. The coalition says its position remains the same as it was 7 months ago. A civilian-led police oversight board for Newfoundland and Labrador is a common-sense idea that should be implemented without further delay, it says. Minister Hogan was unavailable to meet with reporters today, but his department gave CBC a statement. It says no decision has been made on establishing the police oversight model being proposed by First Voice. Significant work will be needed and is ongoing to determine what a new police oversight model could look like. In its strongly worded statement, First Voice says that the province has lacked leadership and must make legislative changes to build trust with Indigenous peoples and restore public confidence in the police. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls will be remembered in Corner Brook this week. The Halapu First Nation is holding a ceremony called Say Their Names to honor those lost. Here Now's Troy Turner was there.
27 cards telling the stories of 27 lives, all from Newfoundland and Labrador, all Indigenous, all missing or murdered women and girls.
It's never nice to read such stories of tragedy and injustice. But you also remember that the reason you're finding this information is to share it with people so that we can move forward in truth and reconciliation. And it's important that these things never happen again.
Leslie McCarthy and her colleagues are busy preparing for an event this Friday. It's called Say Their Name, and it brings awareness to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls across Canada.
Hey guys.
The Corner Brook event will have smudging, poster making, drumming and song. But most of all, it's to remember.
We had some people doing research to find any of the information that was out there on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls across Newfoundland and Labrador. We've gathered that information so that we can give everyone the opportunity to say their name so that we do not forget these women.
Organizers are hoping for a great turnout.
We want to make sure that the public is aware that everybody is invited to this event. It's important that everybody learns about this information and brings awareness to this tragic epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
McCarthy and her team are putting the final touches on the logistics and the organization of this year's ceremony, which will take place at 1 o'clock on Friday here at the Miigwech Garden. Troy Turner, CBC News, Corner Brook.
It's a grisly sight on the beaches in Conception Bay South. Dozens of dead seals have been washing up along the shoreline. People in Chamberlain's are concerned, wondering when and if the creatures are going to be cleaned up. Here Now's Heather Gillis has that story, but first a warning, some of the pictures are disturbing.
The beach is Kyle Downey's backyard. He lives just over this embankment, a few feet from the sea in Chamberlain's Conception Bay South. His once great view, now a grim sight. Dozens of dead seals now litter the shoreline.
We've been counting every day now, and for the last 3 or 4 days, they've just been increasing in numbers. Right now, in front of the house, we've seen 20 dead seals. Most of them are missing their heads, which is pretty gruesome.
Downey says the seals are pretty beat up, and he thinks they've been dead for a while. He blames broken pack ice for killing them.
Yeah, I think they probably just drowned. A lot of them are pretty young, by the looks of it, mostly white coats or raggedy jackets. If the ice broke up out offshore, the seals don't have anything to rest on, so it doesn't take very long for them to drown and eventually wash up ashore, like you see.
Resident Blair Fitzpatrick says he won't let his daughter play on the beach anymore.
It's just gross.
After days of these dead seals being here on the beach, residents want to see officials take action and clean up the mess.
You can even see some offshore sometimes.
Downey worries the creatures' carcasses will start smelling soon, and he'd like to see them removed or buried.
And secondly, of course, there's a lot of rumors of avian flu going around, and these are attracting birds on the edge of our property. So that's a pretty big concern for myself and, my pets.
And I'm afraid my daughter could get, some kind of disease probably.
In a statement, the town of CBS says it's asking residents to avoid areas where there are dead seals for health and safety reasons. Deputy Mayor Andrea Goss says as soon as the town became aware of the dead animals, it advised the federal government, which she says has the expertise and training to handle such matters. But the Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans hasn't said how it plans to handle the situation. No one there could provide comment by deadline, leaving residents like Fitzpatrick and Downey to wait and steer clear of the shore. Heather Gillis, CBC News, Conception Bay South.
There were a few breaks in the sun, or breaks in the cloud, I should say, today, leaving some sunshine for the Avalon for a good chunk of the day, but a lot more cloud cover in other places than there has been certainly for the last little while. We're still in that onshore flow. There's some showers just to the south of us, but if I zoom out, you can see lots of shower activity across the Maritime provinces and in Ontario. Now, this area of high pressure has been in place for well over a week now. In fact, if not 2 weeks, it's been in place. So it's causing this blocking pattern, which is why we're seeing all of that rain through parts of Ontario, Quebec, all of that flooding. It's as a result of this blocking pattern. Now, things aren't really going to change as we head through at least the next week or so. By next week, it looks like we may see a little bit of a change, but that is one of the headlines, really, as we look ahead. But till we get there, RDF returns. Definitely some fog, and that will be the story over the next couple of days. And even though we saw some cloud cover today through parts of Labrador, the weather will improve. We'll talk all about that coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. The hockey community in Conception Bay North is buzzing. One of their own is chasing the Stanley Cup. Dawson Mercer and the New Jersey Devils open their second round series against the Carolina Hurricanes later tonight. Terry Roberts was in Bay Roberts today at the fitness center where Mercer stays in shape.
The New Jersey Devils.
They overcame a slow start, and it took 7 games. But the high-flying New Jersey Devils won their first playoff series in 11 years on Monday. And Dawson Mercer of Bay Roberts was a key ingredient in eliminating a star-studded New York Rangers team, scoring 2 goals and adding an assist, logging big minutes and playing in key situations, and proving he belongs following a stellar second season with the Devils that saw him record 56 regular season points, including 27 goals. Few are prouder of Mercer's success than these two. This is Mercer's uncle, his coach and trainer for many years. He's had a front row seat as Mercer rose through hockey's ranks and traveled to New Jersey to watch games 1 and 2 against the Rangers.
I was overwhelmed by it. I'm first to admit it was a very emotional time for me because that was my dream. My dream was never to make the NHL. My dream was to be able to put someone or some people there.
And this is Bo's son, Zach. He plays professional hockey in Europe, is a Memorial Cup champion, and Mercer's cousin, in awe of what his former teammate and close friend has so far accomplished.
He's a top 6 guy on a team, second round of the playoffs in the NHL. I mean, what is that, .0000001? He's unbelievable. He's just focused on that dream, and he always has been.
Mercer has now played in 171 consecutive games since making his NHL debut last season.
I bet you he's the toughest player on the Devils.
It's an impressive Ironman streak for a 21-year-old who first turned heads at the Bay Arena in Bay Roberts. He's known for his relentless work ethic, his steely nerves, and a wealth of natural ability inherited from a family of athletes.
He goes to those areas, he loses teeth, he goes and plays, he gets ran over, he gets back up, he bounces off hits. He's not afraid of anybody.
Like he's done nearly all his life, Dawson Mercer still trains at this fitness center here in Bay Roberts, determined to keep his body and mind in top shape.
This place is a shrine to some of the best talent to emerge from this area, but they're actually hoping they won't be seeing Dawson Mercer lifting weights here anytime soon, that he'll be too busy helping the Devils go deep into the playoffs.
If they bring their speed game, they can go all the way, and they can give anybody fits.
2-on-1, Eric Holla, power play goal early.
Dawson Mercer is now playoff tested. He's still a long way from holding the Stanley Cup, but he's already a champion in many eyes.
Like, this kid has all the talent in the world.
Terry Roberts, CBC News, Bay Roberts.
While staying with hockey, it wasn't the start that Maple Leafs fans were hoping for last night. Despite 20-year-old rookie Matthew Knies scoring his first NHL goal, the Florida Panthers won the opening game of the second round series against the Leafs. Game 2 goes Thursday night in Toronto. Staff at the Corpus Christi Food Bank in St. John's are making a final plea for a home. The food bank has been operating in a space for about 30 years, but the church was sold, and the bank either needs to clear out by the end of the month or find a new home. With about 200 people and families relying on Corpus Christi monthly, volunteer Catherine Fleming says finding a new location won't be easy.
My name is Kathy Fleming. I volunteer with this food bank, St. Vincent de Paul, Corpus Christi. And recently our church was sold, so because our food bank is on the church property, we have to vacate here by the end of May. The new owner had been generous enough to let us stay because he bought it way back in probably in December. And now our time is up here, so we've been looking for a new place to operate from, but due to high rents and things like that, it's not easy to get a space that we need. So basically what we're looking for now is a space between 1,000 and 1,500 square feet to continue operating in this area, general area. It's been really difficult. We've had government people looking for us, city councillors, the ones from the area, and they can't seem to come up with anything, with a low rent or, free space if possible, So that's why now our time is getting short and we're putting a last-ditch effort into securing a place to operate from.
Well, we asked the Minister of Children, Seniors and Social Development about that situation facing the food bank and what they might be able to do to help. Here's what he said.
The MHA has been working with them. We now will step in and make sure that they do find a home. Part of it is going to be just the logistics of finding the appropriate space, but once we can sort that out with them, then we'll make sure that that service is up and running, because it is needed in that part of the city for sure.
Staying with news from the House of Assembly, the provincial government is tweaking the legislation that governs Memorial University. But it's not the big changes that government has been looking at. This change will allow teaching staff to sit on the Board of Regents. It's an issue that was front and center during the strike by professors earlier this year. The province is still committed to bigger structural changes, but it'll take time, says the minister.
It's a start of a journey of reorganising the governance of MUN. Collegial governance is what the MUNFA have used as a term, and to protect academic autonomy, but ensure fiscal responsibility and accountability as well, because that's very much what we've heard from all stakeholders, including the opposition.
And more political news now. A former chair of Memorial University's Board of Regents is going to fill a vacant seat in the Senate. Iris Petton is described by the Prime Minister's office as an entrepreneur with 35 years' experience in the fishing industry. Her appointment was announced this afternoon by the PMO, and she's not alone. Jane McAdam, a former Auditor General of Prince Edward Island, was also appointed a senator today. Both women were recommended by an independent board. Well, today marks 2 full weeks on the picket line for Canada Revenue Agency workers in this province. Despite a tentative agreement that was reached on Monday for nearly 12,000 PSAC members, the union says in a statement that the CRA, quote, continues to play games. PSAC says that although some of the issues for CRA employees have been resolved, wages, remote work, job security, and working conditions are among the issues that remain sticking points. A convicted killer awaiting trial on other charges now has new charges against him. Philip Pinn was charged for trying to bring drugs into Her Majesty's Penitentiary. Police say the drugs were found after a body cavity search and have a street value of $30,000. Pinn's now being charged with offenses that include possession for the purposes of trafficking. He's also set to go on trial on charges relating to abducting and extorting a man. He was convicted of manslaughter in the shooting death of a friend in 2011.
Well, the fog is going to return over the next couple of days, but when will it disappear? We'll talk all about it in a few minutes.
The person that I am now compared to who I was before my assault is like so different.
I guess my vision of justice would be like to forever feel like I'm at that place, to forever feel like I'm at peace.
I think there's something really powerful in visualizing someone else's experience in this way.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Early bird prize deadline is midnight Friday, May 5th. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Well, spring cleaning, bulk garbage, the big cleanup, whatever you want to call it, municipalities across the province are gearing up for their version of spring garbage pickup.
Yeah, and it's not just about getting rid of the old. Sometimes it can be about finding the new. People like Andrew Emberley of Pasadena often go out scouting for treasures left abandoned out on the curb. Take a look.
Hello, I'm Andrew Emberley, and I like Big Cleanup Week because you never know what you're going to find. There's so many cool things out there. It's environmentally friendly, or helping stuff not go into the dump, and well, like this is the fun of the hunt of looking for the cool things. One of the cool things I've after found is this right here. It's a little record player. What more do you want, Mike?
And it looks like he had a nice little trunk behind him there as well. Yeah, he's done pretty well.
Very nice, yes.
So, you know, a lot of people, it's spring cleaning, but it doesn't feel very spring-like yet in most of the province. Are we alone with kind of this reluctant arrival of spring, or are...
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay. So everyone else has it better than us. Good to know.
In some cases, yes, especially in the western portion of Canada. Let's just take a look at those temperatures. So here's your temperatures across North America. Look, Fort Mac, 27 degrees. It's currently, or was, 26 degrees, likely still is, in Calgary. That is, 10 to 12 degrees warmer than it should be for this time of year. We've got that big dip in the jet stream. That's bringing some cooler temperatures through Ontario, 10 degrees right now in Toronto, and 9 in Montreal. But if we zoom in, we're seeing those cooler temperatures pretty much across the board. Just earlier, Halifax, 5 degrees today. That is on the other side. So you're 10 degrees colder than you should be for this time of year. And certainly in St. John's, we're at 4 degrees, and we should be hovering around 9 at this time. So definitely could use a few more degrees, that's for sure. But all that warmth still very much in place through Stephenville, Winterland. 11 degrees today, and up across Labrador again, Lab City cracking the double digits at 10 degrees this afternoon. So what's happening as far as the upper level pattern is concerned? We've got this big ridge in the jet stream that's allowing all of that mild air to move further north. It's going to stick around into the Northwest Territories as we head into the weekend, but what's going to happen as we head into next week? Well, we will eventually see some warmth. It looks like by the middle of next week, we'll see a pattern change, and we should start to see some of that more spring-like weather for the northeast coast anyway. I know most of you have been seeing that spring-like weather, but that is what it looks like, and we'll have to wait till next week to see that. So right now we've got a couple things happening. We've got that onshore flow, then we've got an area of low pressure to the south, bringing some upper level cloud cover in anyway, and that's coming from the west. So as we head through the night tonight, we're going to see that potential for a few showers. This will stay at bay, but the onshore flow is what's going to bring those showers in those northerly winds, because that's really going to stick around. But we are seeing some showers up across St. Anthony, even in Cartwright. You can see some fog off in the distance there in St. Anthony. If we take a look at what the visibility is at the moment, it's come up a bit, but still about 3.6 kilometers. Same thing for Cartwright, and down to 0.4 kilometers in St. John's. This will be the story as we head through the next couple of days, certainly as we head through the night tonight. And then into tomorrow, we'll see a bit of clearing through parts of central, likely still seeing that dense fog, or at least some fog across the northern Avalon. We'll see it dip again in the evening hours and overnight, and then by Friday afternoon, coming up a little bit. So it'll be patchy as the afternoon rolls through. It should clear out totally through central and coastal areas of Labrador. But again, by Saturday, early Saturday morning, we're also looking at that fog. Now, after Saturday, it looks like we can say goodbye to that, at least for a little while. Temperatures now sitting around 2 degrees, still a bit of a wind chill out there. Still a beautiful night in Lab City at 10 degrees. And like I said, that shower activity down along the south coast should stay at bay. But for the most part, our temperatures are going to be fairly mild tonight. There's not really a whole lot except a blanket of cloud cover, the potential for some drizzle and fog, and maybe even a few flurries in the mix as well. But our temperatures between 2 and 3 degrees for the most part, and up across Labrador, similar forecast. Now, as far as what's going to happen as we head through the day tomorrow, we're looking at those temperatures between 3 and 5 towards the coast, much warmer, 7 to 10, maybe even 11 degrees in Port aux Basques. That's where the best weather will be, although cloud cover through the day tomorrow, that's for sure. And then for coastal areas of Labrador, between 2 and about 6 degrees, warmest still through central Labrador. Happy Valley, Goose Bay, lots of sunshine tomorrow, another 9-degree day, and then Lab City you'll hover around 8 with generally cloudy skies, and that will be the story until we head into the evening hours. You should see a little bit of clearing. So that's your forecast for tomorrow. We'll look ahead when I come back.
There's a new business in town, a green one, an e-bike business, the first of its kind in downtown St. John's. A great business story that's coming up. A very green business and a first for St. John's is about to open an e-bike shop right downtown on Water Street. Mike Hall is the owner, the business guy. Mike, how did you get interested in this?
So this concept started back in the fall. I had approached Pedigo about possibly buying maybe 4 to 6 bikes. Within a short order of that request, I got a phone call from the director of Pedigo, Mike Clyde, and he said, Mike, can we have a few minutes to talk? And I said, sure. So he calls me and he says, we had targeted St. John's and Halifax as our next go-to destinations to set up our shops in. He said, we feel strongly that St. John's, Newfoundland has got a massive need and a desire for our Pedigo brand, and we'd like to talk to you about becoming our new dealer.
So this came out of nowhere, really?
It came out of nowhere. I had no plans about taking on an e-bike, outlet or shop whatsoever.
And
here we are.
Now, we have a few hills around here. Were you concerned that these things might not be up to it?
That was certainly one of my first concerns. I said to Mike, Mike, you're living out in Vancouver, you're up in Nelson. I said, you got lots of guests traveling around Stanley Park on these bikes. I said, for you to really win me over and convince me that there's a viable option here in business for your rentals, I said, you're gonna have to sell me on the idea. You're gonna have to send me a bike, one of your premium brands. I said, the elevations here are crazy. So I said, if you really wanna win me over, I said, you send me a couple of demos, and so I'll get back to you if I'm interested. Right. So he sent me a couple of bikes. He said, I understand. And they sent me the bikes, and I got to tell you, even when I got the bikes, I had my reservations about whether this was going to work out here in St. John's. Yeah. I mean, I knew that any guests that were going to come here, they're going to go to Signal Hill, they're going to go to Cape Spear, they're going to be coming up and down the road, seeing all the colorful houses in the city. So this is not flat Stanley Park. This is not Edmonton. This is not Saskatchewan. This is going to be tried and true tested of what an e-bike is really capable of.
You had some guests from Calgary that you use as guinea pigs?
So as this thing is unfolding, I guess someone got wind that I had a couple of e-bikes. So I got a call from these 2 guests that were here from Calgary. 2 folks, beautiful people, and they said, we'd like to rent a couple of bikes. I said, well, tell you what, I'm not really geared up for that, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you the bikes. I'll give you the bikes, and I want an honest review, I said, of what you think they are all about. I said, where are you gonna go? They said, we're gonna go to Cape Spear. I said, perfect. I dropped the bikes down to the Sheraton. I dropped them off. I said, here's my phone number. If you got any calls, give me any issues with the bike, give me a call. In my mind, I was thinking, I wonder, are these things gonna be able to go to Cape Spear and back? Anyway, she calls me up 3 hours later and she says, come down. She said, we want to talk to you about these bikes. She said, they're amazing. She said, we went to Cape Spear, we came back. She said, we had 62% left on the battery. Now, Cape Spear, anyone who's from around here, you know the hills.
Yeah, that's 45K or so, right?
Give or take,
yeah.
Right? And still having 62% left was amazing. The fact that the bikes did it. So I was sold. At that point. I called up Mike and I said, you got my attention, I'm in.
You got the opening coming up. What are the details on when things are going to get going? Because I know it's imminent.
Yeah, so as you can see here, we got half of our rental fleet. We're expecting Dan Ross actually to show up this afternoon with the other 16 bikes. The response to this has actually been so overwhelming that I'm looking at putting another order in for maybe another dozen, because you go on our website to book the bikes and the website is filling daily. I get the automation comes on the phone to see how all the bookings come in. So I really don't know if we're going to have enough to supply the demand, but we'll increase. I'm happy to do that. So
well, it's a good thing you're a firefighter, because I should mention that Mike's a firefighter of the city, because you're used to handling pressure and intensity, because I have a feeling you're going to have a lot of people interested in these bikes. So I want to thank you for your time and good luck with the opening.
Thank you very much. May 16th at 10 a.m. Love to see you here.
Well, staying with downtown St. John's, the federal government says it's going to take another look at the controversial harbour fence. The Premier wrote the federal transportation minister to see if it's possible to do something about this fence that was built 10 years ago. At the time, people protested the construction, which cut the public off from a section of the harbour. The St. John's Port Authority put up the fence, citing security concerns. Well, today, the federal transportation minister says he's going to talk with them to see if changes can be made.
Of course, I know this is an issue of concern to the community. As I had written to the Premier, this is an issue under the purview of the port. Having said that, I'm going to follow up with the port and see if there's anything that can be done.
Kids would come over
to us, and Richie would immediately start talking to the kids and be like showing them how to skateboard and all this kind of stuff. And myself, not having kids, I would be like, should we be talking to the kids in the park? Like, I feel like we're probably not supposed to be doing this.
The stories behind the pictures. Just ahead, our fifth and final segment of Signal Connects. Well, for the last 5 weeks, Here Now has been teaming up with our colleagues at CBC Radio's The Signal for a conversation about finding community and connection through the lens of a street photographer and his subjects. Well, tonight on our final episode, we begin with the person who brought everyone together, Richie Perez.
Anytime I've been out with you, walking around for work, everyone's like, hey Richie, hey Richie, hey Richie, and like it keeps happening. You know so many people.
The King of Kensington.
Oh, hello there. Hello.
Well, Richie has this gift of people come to you all the time, strangers, and when we first started reconnecting, and we were going out skateboarding a lot together and things like this, and you know, kids would come over. to myself and Richie, because we'd have skateboards. So kids would come over to us, and Richie would immediately start talking to the kids and be like showing them how to skateboard and all this kind of stuff. And myself, not having kids, I was uncomfortable by this whole situation at first. I would be like, should we be talking to the kids in the park? Like, I feel like we're probably not supposed to be doing this. And but the parents would come over, kids would come over, like everybody would come over, because Richie just has that personality where people feel comfortable immediately. You bring everybody in. I mean, we've had so many amazing times in the park, meeting people from all over the world.
Yeah,
and coming over, and you're putting, it blows my mind, because you're putting people on skateboards. A lot of them, you can tell, have never, ever, ever stepped foot on a skateboard, and you get them to do it. You know, whereas I walked over to them and said, "You should try this." They would just walk away immediately. But Richie,
they're yelling "stranger danger."
Yeah. But Richie has a way that you make people feel comfortable and willing to try something that they probably wouldn't normally do.
Thing is I don't remember, there weren't many people of my generation growing up. You know, I've had a few people, you know, thank a lot of people for kind of helping me grow up, but I just want to give back to seeing a few people there that are introvert or too shy to come out, and you know, like you see someone there that's like watching, you can almost sense through body language that they want to participate or join in on the fun or just be part of a community. And that's what I try to do, is I try to just be that person to just kind of lure the like people that I meet to come in and join and be part of this, because I sometimes see, and I have that empathy on someone on the street that you see that's on their own, and I just feel like it's my job to go and say, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? Who are you? Or you wanna join us?
Yeah, I remember the first time I met Richie, like that was our very first time meeting each other, and he was like my old friend and just talking to me like an old friend, that kind of style. And I was like, oh, he is interesting, you know. And then that's how we finally decided to form a band together to play music together, because
Turned out he's also a killer guitar player.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Richie is fantastic. Everybody knows Richie, and everybody loves Richie.
I had to start filling the back of my car with skateboards when I would go to meet Richie, because I knew that if we only bring one board each, we're not going to get on a board ourselves, because Richie's going to invite the entire park to come and ride our skateboards. So I started bringing 4 or 5 skateboards in the back of the car, and we just throw them in the grass. And as people would come over to see Richie, then he would encourage them to try it. And then there was boards for everybody, basically.
That was pretty neat, kind of creating our own little community.
It was really
there.
fun. Yeah. Let's keep it going once the snow's gone.
Yes.
How many people have you kind of run into for street photography in the course of like this year or the last couple of years? It's a lot, right?
Yeah, I can't count the amount of people. Well, St. John's is small too, so sometimes you come across the similar people and you have different conversations with them. But yeah, you just any person that I've never met before, I'm willing to kind of get to know them and capture them and just see if they're having a good day or bad day.
What are some of the things that are striking you from these conversations lately of the St. John's or the Newfoundland and Labrador now compared to the one that we were talking about when you were growing up?
I think there's a sense of community, and I think there's stories to be told. There's everyone is unique.
Joe, what do you think about nowadays? Is like for you, a business person, like the province that we're working in, living in now, compared to when someone who, as you said, you're an army brat moving in?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously the city, the province has changed so drastically much, and I love it. I'm actually like a huge fan of all the change, because again, the 90s for us, while it was really fun for us musically, but if we really look back at that period of time, really that's all it was. It was like for a lot of us, it was like we were young kids who started bands. We had a great time playing music, and nowadays I feel like it's everything. Like city can really offer anything. The province offers everything, and I don't know. People do seem to like pursue their dreams and chase things a lot more now. And you've seen some success stories too, which has been really cool. Because when I was a kid, we didn't have anybody that as a role model to look up to that had made it or had done anything. There wasn't authors that were being celebrated across the country. We had great artists. We had, if you look back, the generation right before ours, we had like the David Blackwoods and the Christopher Pratts, and Newfoundland had celebrated visual artists, but that was kind of about it, And even in the TV and film world, we had Gordon Pinsent, but there wasn't many others. And then through the 90s, we saw the rise of so many huge personalities from Newfoundland, and TV, radio, theater, authors, musicians. Great Big Sea went on and sold millions of records, and not like hundreds of records like our bands would have. And it was just like, suddenly it was like, oh wait, we can do whatever we want. And it's really cool to see that. I hope that the generations coming through now feel that, and do feel that they can do whatever they want and go for it.
Florence, how are you feeling about like where we are now and like the community that you're in with the province?
Yeah, I've actually seen a lot of change, I would say, at least in the last decade, like at the very least. And it's really nice to see that it's becoming more diversified. I feel like a lot of people just want to come here because they love the outdoors, they love the scenery, and it's just, we do have a lot to offer, and I think it's nice that there's a lot of people coming in and realizing that, and it's nice to bring, like, I guess, new talent and like new ideas to be brought here so that Newfoundland can grow to its full potential. I know the tech industry is growing, it's booming, and it's nice that that's something that's being realized here, and hopefully that will incentivize people to stay here or even move here and just make Newfoundland really amazing.
We were having a drink, having a chat about your photography. You talked about introducing us to some folks, which you did. When are you going back out to take street photography?
I'll probably go out this weekend, actually, and just get some free time when I'm less busy. I'll go out.
Eyes up, looking at people, talking. All right.
Yeah.
Richie, thank you so much for this, and thanks to you guys too. This has been great.
Well, it was 30 years ago tonight that it was election night in Newfoundland and Labrador. Clyde Wells was looking for a second term in government, and he got it. So what were the big issues? Well, let's take a look back. Here's the report from 1993.
Many voters saw the election campaign as a referendum on Clyde Wells' style and leadership since he was elected 4 years ago. In the end, Newfoundlanders gave him an increased majority and an overwhelming endorsement.
Let's all of us work together to meet the difficult challenges of these times and ensure that we go forward on a fair and balanced basis for all of our people.
It would have been a great shock if Mr. Wells had been challenged severely and, his majority threatened in any way, because, as I say, there's long years of Smallwood reign, long years of PC reign, and it looks as though we're in for another long period of government by the Liberals.
Throughout the campaign, Wells blamed the province's weak economy on the recession and proposed deficit reduction as the key to economic recovery. Those voters that cast their ballots for the Liberals apparently bought Wells' message.
I said, now who would I want to handle my money, if I had any money? And I figured out it was Wells.
My main issues, I guess, is that the deficit has to be handled somehow, and I think the man that's going to be able to do it is the Premier.
To teachers and public servants that opposed Wells' plan to cut their wages and benefits, the result is a stinging rebuke. They're now offering an olive branch.
Even though Mr. Wells and the Liberal Party have the majority, it would be to the benefit of everybody, including the Liberal Party, if we were to start on a road toward Labour peace.
For the Conservative Party that ruled Newfoundland until Clyde Wells came along, another disappointing loss, just 17 seats.
We will continue to prepare ourselves to be ready 4 years from now to again present ourselves as a credible, viable alternative to the government.
The New Democrats leader, Jack Harris, held the party's only seat, but made no gains. Winning the election may have been the easy part for Clyde Wells. He now has to face serious problems in the Newfoundland economy and public sector unions that say they'd rather go on strike than take a cut in pay. Brenda Craig, CBC News, St. John's.
Police have found the bodies of 2 volunteer firefighters swept away by floodwaters in Quebec. Francois Legault toured the region today and spoke about the 2 men.
It was important for me to be in Baie-Saint-Paul and with the mayor of Saint-Urbain. Of course, the most difficult part is about the 2 firemen, and I think they were in really good faith trying to help. They, of course, didn't think that it would go so fast.
Severe flooding has washed away roads and destroyed some homes in the region. Some areas got more than 50 millimeters of rain in less than 24 hours. Residents of Liverpool are preparing for a big event in the coming days, but it's not the coronation of King Charles. No, the people in this northern city are counting down the days to the start of a new song competition. The CBC's Briar Stewart has more.
On the streets of Liverpool, they're preparing for a party.
I think really exciting for the whole country, to be honest with you. We've not had anything like this, not in our lifetime anyway.
She is, of course, talking about Eurovision, the annual song contest that has a cult following. In the city that gave birth to the Beatles, it's only fitting there's big excitement for a musical spectacle. Then there's that other major event that's about to take place.
I imagine Eurovision will be a lot more popular than the coronation here, for sure.
Elliot Barrett says he isn't particularly interested in the monarchy.
Like compared to London, Liverpool's going to be a lot more apathetic and maybe antagonistic.
Sometimes that's clearly heard at football matches, where Liverpool fans have booed the national anthem, and last year, even Prince William. Last week, there were cheers and jeers when the King visited Liverpool. A recent poll found that there was less support for the monarchy here compared to most other places in the UK. Across Britain, 55% of people responded saying they either agree or strongly agree that the monarchy is a good thing, but in Liverpool that number dropped to 38%.
So there's interesting dynamics at play within the city.
This political professor says some sentiment is rooted in Liverpool's history and its opposition to the Thatcher government in the 1980s.
From that sprung this really strong anti-conservative and anti-establishment kind of sentiment. Like, you also have a strong kind of Irish population within the city, for obvious kind of historical reasons, or not necessarily fans of the British state.
But David Jeffrey believes that the overwhelming feeling in the city is probably ambivalence. People may have opinions, but aren't too fussed either way.
Some people like Charles, some people don't, but it's a bank holiday.
And many will be marking the day off by celebrating the start of Eurovision week. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Liverpool.
Well, we're looking ahead to the weekend now already. By the time we get into Friday, we should see some of that fog continue. But as we head into the afternoon hours, it does look like things should lift for the most part through Central and likely linger across the Avalon. Temperatures will be the coolest, at least the coolest on the island for the Avalon, 2 degrees in St. John's. Otherwise, between 8 to about 10 degrees. The warmest temperatures will be in Port aux Basques, where you'll hover around 12. Now, it also means you're going to see lots of sunshine as well, especially along the west coast and the south coast of the island through Friday. Temperatures up across Labrador, coolest along the coast, again in that onshore flow. Some showers and flurries certainly possible for those of you in Cartwright. And then as you get away from that onshore flow, about 8 degrees in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and Lab City, you should hover around 12. Now, as we head into Saturday, also looking a little wet. Things should improve for the most part though, but we're looking between 3 and about 5 degrees all along the coast. And then temperatures are cooler than they have been, especially for the last couple of days. You'll be sitting somewhere between 6 and about 7 degrees for the west coast and along the south coast of the island, but it does look like you'll still see some sunshine. The warmest will be in Lab City at 13 degrees. Now, it is going to be a little bit wet over the next couple of days, generally looking at about a trace to 5 millimeters, but the eastern portion, at least the northeast portion of the island, will see somewhere between 5 to 10 millimeters, and we could even see some pockets of higher than that, 10 to 20 millimeters, especially if we get into more steady rain. And the best chance of that happening will be tomorrow evening into early Friday morning. Long range forecast still showing temperatures fairly cool. Now, like I said a little bit earlier, we are looking at a change in the forecast, hopefully some double digits as we head into next week. But for now, we're looking at the gray skies continuing along with the chance of drizzle and temperatures between 3 and 6 degrees. Now for central Newfoundland, pretty gray through the weekend as well, 5 to 9. By Monday, we may even see a few flurries in the mix. Your temperature hovering around 7 degrees. But for western Newfoundland, sunny until Saturday, and then it's shift. But daytime highs are still between 7 and 12 degrees. Now for eastern Labrador, you're looking at that cool down by the time we get to the end of the weekend, and similar but much nicer weather for western Labrador. Now, as far as our weather picture, this one is just stunning. Love the sunrise here. Thank you to Harrison Bragg for that. And if you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, send them to Facebook, Twitter, or email to nlphotos@cbc.ca. That's the best place to send them.
Ashley, I'm really liking the promise of double-digit temperatures, especially since the normal for this time of year for St. John's is normally should be around 9 degrees. So, you know, I don't think it's too much to ask to try and get some somewhat more seasonable temperatures.
Well, it's all about that pattern.
Well, that's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a good night.